What's up? What's up?
Hello, hello. Welcome one, welcome all. Episode number 5 of the Intrinsic podcast. We got your two hosts here, myself, Dave,
Myself,
Spiral
Alicia.
Talks, and Alicia.
Welcome, welcome. My name's Alicia, and we're on episode 5. And
Hello.
today we decided that we are going to do a part 2 of our last episode, which is surrender, right? Because I
Or the
feel like
depth of
that's
surrender.
a never ending topic.
Mm-hmm.
We could probably do multiple episodes on this. We could do a whole series, but we're just going to stick to 2 parts for now. Welcome, everybody that just jumped in. Thank you for tuning
Thank
in
you for
to
joining
the
in.
Intrinsic podcast. We would love to hear your comments throughout the podcast
Yes.
as well. We definitely appreciate your input and dialogue. We'll make sure to tap into the comments just so that nobody gets left out, kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Insight is always welcome.
yes, insight is always welcome. We appreciate it. So, let me just turn this down. I'm just having a little bit of a hard time hearing, only because I want to try with the headphones, but we've been there before. So,
Yeah, it didn't work all too well last time.
okay. So, let's start off with, again, I guess, our definition of surrender.
Hmm.
What's your
Surrender.
definition of surrender?
My deepest definition of surrender is relaxing one's soul to the knowledge of the truth of what's in front of you. So it's like being able to accept the reality that exists in front of you and knowing that that is the reality that exists in front of you and that you are able to grow from it because you accept that reality for what it is.
Okay. So, so as long as you can grow from it and accept it,
Mm-hmm.
that that's true form of surrendering.
Mm-hmm. Acceptance. It's
Acceptance.
like,
Well,
yeah,
acceptance is a part of surrendering, I feel.
yeah,
Judgment is a part of surrendering too. Resisting judgment on others. Um, Trusting the process of things. Sometimes,
yes,
things aren't quite panning out the way you've imagined it. But yet, at the end of the day, when you look back on your journey, you're like, wow, all of this was for a reason. This was a part of the plan. This was a part of my journey. Like these things that I thought were negative were actually a part of my healing, were actually a part of my growth. And accepting that as it is what it is, that's, I feel, is also a part of surrendering as well. You know,
mm,
um, Acceptance of your family, surrendering to the fact that sometimes, uh, I mean, that also
uh,
applies to friends, but I'm going to stick with family for now because family is one of our most intimate
connection.
and relationships and our most influential relationships growing up,
Mm-hmm.
right? Is our families. So, certain times, you have family members. Everybody has a family member that they either don't like or they don't like to conversate with too much. But I feel like surrendering plays a role when you can accept the fact that sometimes people are just the way that they are.
Mm,
Like they is that's who they is, and if you can find the love in all of their good attributes and not necessarily put their bad attributes under the rug, because as someone who's always protecting their energy, you have to know what you
yes.
can handle and what you can't handle,
Mm-hmm.
right? Excuse
Yeah,
me.
because
So
surrender would also probably apply in that same sense of like, if you know that the energy between you and a person is becoming, or it's going on a downward spiral. You surrender to the knowledge that the time that you and that person currently exist in is not the time for you both to do your best. You can
Mm.
still show love and still enjoy the value of that person, but you wouldn't have to directly involve your lives together. So it's like you're surrendered to the reality that you are both your own selves, and your own selves require you to go on different paths
To go
instead of
different
trying to
paths.
like,
They're not in
yeah.
alignment with your current path
Mm-hmm.
that you're. Sometimes that's hard to do, especially with family, right? Because
Mm-hmm.
sometimes the family is intermediate, where it's like real close, like it's mom or it's a sister or it's a brother, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And even with that, I've learned through my adulthood that even with people that are really personal to me, that I love them, and that sometimes when we're around each other too often, or when they communicate with me, because they just tend to have a certain way of thinking or projecting their energy onto people without realizing it too. And I mean, you made a very good point a couple of podcasts back that we're all pretty much empathetic. We're all empaths. We just
Yes,
have our different ways of, you know,
different
we have
level.
different levels. There's different levels to it.
Yeah.
So, like being an empath, I personally know that if somebody is someone who speaks very negatively on a regular basis, like, or they're a complainer, right? That type of
Mm.
energy really irks my spirit, only because I do sit in a place of gratitude a lot of the time. And I've been through my ups and downs, and I know people go through ups and downs, and that I know that even though those ups and downs are there, that there's definitely more of a bigger picture involved
Mm.
with when you experience some of the things that you did. So I get a little bit irked in the sense of like if it's too much.
Mm.
When
If
you're
it's
like
like it's
having a
too
conversation with two
draining, like
hours
you
and I'm
mean,
just being an ear to someone just energetically tossing their shit, that's when I'm just like, nah, okay, I'm gonna need a week off. I'm
yeah.
gonna need
Oh,
2 weeks
if
off
someone's
just to
really polluting you with
reset.
their energy, with their negativity, or their situation to the point where it's like they're discredit, or what would be the way to look at it? They're, I guess, the reverse of being humble, essentially. It's like they're not being humble towards you for what you're going on, what you're dealing with in your own life. They're pushing forward with their own, I guess, views of like what they want you to see. And like, I also feel that that too is something that we're starting to look at more as a people. Like, compassion and humility is starting to grow a lot more, and I think it's helping the growth of the souls that we have. I think like the whole idea of like my concept of thought, it was always like reincarnation. And it's like we reincarnate because we're supposed to learn something. There's some kind of lesson that we're learning as we evolve our souls in like the spirit world. So it's like when you have those moments where someone is like that, it's because they are either lost or they're fighting against their own want for growth. It's like they enjoy the realm that they exist in without wanting more, which is not necessarily a bad thing, but it goes against them, and every time they reincarnate they still feel that lingering energy. And like that's kind of like the main push of like whenever you have those kind of experiences with people where there's no compassion for what you're going through and there's no humility, you could see that like their soul is still young in that state. Or because again, earth is a crazy place, so it may have also, there is a little bit of it where it can be damaged due to what they had seen. And that's where it's like from the outside looking in, we can be humble and like we can surrender ourselves to the knowledge that that person's spirit is young, and like
Mm.
there is no malice behind it, there's no hatred. You can surrender yourself to that knowledge that they're learning still. Someone is still learning. They're learning. They're figuring it out. So you can kind of
Oh
get
my God.
give.
A famous statement is what they not they don't know what they do. They not know
They
what they
know
do.
not what they do. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Forgive them
And
for they
that
know not what
that
they do.
like
Yeah,
helps me kind of ease my soul on like one losing my shit
yeah.
and telling it over people because my mouth is fire. Like the shit that would come out of my
Yeah.
mouth, it like it's
Oh,
like no,
yeah.
I'd be censored all over the damn place. The way that I if I was to communicate how I deeply feel, people are too sensitive nowadays. But anyways, not getting into that. But yeah, it's it's a powerful tool because one, your ancestors in the universe appreciates when you deal with people with that type of compassion because ultimately like you have to be compassionately filled in order to deal with people like that like
Yeah.
sometimes it's hard, but majority of the time it should come easy with you if you look through the eyes of love, if you look through the eyes of like yo you just you don't do things out of malice. You naturally like you're truthful. Sometimes people can't handle the truth that you give them, and that
Mm.
doesn't necessarily mean that you're a bad person. It just means that they can't handle it, their spirit's not ready for it. And and that's also another type of surrender, like accepting who you are, and that sometimes you're not for everybody. Not everybody's gonna like you,
Yes. Oh,
and that's okay.
that's
Like
that's a really good surrender technique, and that's something that's very good to know at a younger age. Like I'll never forget. What was it? That show Recess. There was this one episode where like the main character, I think his name's Mikey or whatever, the dude with the jacket and the hat,
yeah,
um, is I think the there's this one I don't even know. I don't remember. I guess it's like a Spanish kid or like it was a mixed black kid. Was some kid was like a friend of the other friends, and then he invited a bunch of them to the birthday. And like the whole episode, Mikey was like trying to be friends with that guy because he's just like, yo, I'm friends with everybody. How come I'm not friends with you? And like it just wasn't working out. And the episode pretty much ended with them both just agreeing that some people just don't like each other and it's okay. It's okay for that. And like I never forgot that. And like it actually stayed something so sublime to me, especially when I seen it. I was like, what, 13, 14, and it like blew my mind. I was looking back at like all the people, all the moments in my life where I was like, I was trying to push the situation where I'm like, I want this person to be my friend. I want this person to like me. I want this and that without really taking into consideration like what my true wants were. Because like my true wants weren't that I wanted this person as a friend. It was more I was forcing the want of the recognition without actually embracing my true wants, which were just to be myself. And like I wasn't surrendering to the truth that is myself. Neglecting I was neglecting my being prior to
but
that. And then when I
that
see,
makes it the ultimate way of surrendering is like because that's once you tap into that sense of like yo I am God is in me, like yo like you're that's why certain religious concepts don't make sense,
mm,
like
mm,
like born a sinner. I can't get over that one.
that's crazy.
Still rattles me up to this day. Like every time I hear someone say that, like you're a born sinner, or if I hear it in a song, I'm just like, nah, fam. I know what you talking about, but I was born from love. Like I don't know about sin. Like I wasn't born
Yeah.
from.
Like I feel like that is something that has been twisted. That is something to, in one realm, surrender to the knowledge that that is how somebody is trying to portray something against you, but it is not something to surrender your being towards, because the
Mm,
true value and existence of our beings is that we aim to perpetuate good. Generally, all of us want and aim to perpetuate good, perpetuate love, perpetuate life energy. We want pretty much to keep ourselves going, kind of like the general design of the universe. But it's like somewhere along the lines, what I believe is what started like the warping phase when they took ancient texts, those old ancient texts, old scriptures, old books, old stories, and then they twisted it to a way where it's like you took a positive and great message, and then like you I guess this wouldn't be a word, but you negatized it. So like you
Did you say
changed the narrative.
negatize?
Negatized.
You gotta coin
I'm
that
like,
word.
I
I'm
know
sorry.
100%. I knew 100% that wasn't a word, but I just couldn't think of anything that could fit the place. But that word seemed to fit pretty nice. Negatize,
It's
right?
not a word, just coin it, bro. Negatize.
Oh,
People be coining
that's
words
it.
all the time.
Here we go. Negatize. But yeah, like, so, okay. So they negatized that concept that was essentially good. Like, because the idea is like, they're like, you're born a sinner, you're bad, you have to do all these things. And that's more pushed than, hey, the reason why we're considering this to be how you're born as is like, is because something happened to this person. But they don't really go into detail or give enough of a concept of why why that person lived the way they did, how they lived, and really express that as like the overall medium. They don't even really go out of their way to explain because like it the portrayal, I guess, of like Jesus is like he's like an almighty magical being and is like a god essentially, but it's like
Of powers that
every
are not accessible to you.
yeah, and it's they tried to make it so that he's on a higher tier, but when you really take in what was being said from him was that pretty much his actions were pretty much what was trying he wanted to perpetuate. But I guess the tales of the story being rewritten over a couple of centuries, things kind of change. The world, when the world kind of changes and goes to, I guess, a different swing, the messages can also be altered. And I think that's kind of like where our world is right now. Well, I'd say that's where our world was. It's like honestly, I only feel like past hundred or so years is when it was really bad with like the painful realm of indoctrination where it's like they're going to places and like you talking like crusades. You're pulling up and like, hey, read this book. No? All right, burn the village. Like that's crazy.
Yeah,
That's
that's
nuts.
insanity. But even
Mm-hmm.
then, I was telling the girls today, I said, villages and villages of people try to burn down our heritage, burn down the original writings and cultures. But even though they tried to kill us by many, we just keep multiplying and multiplying and multiplying and
Yep.
multiplying. Like we're unstoppable, baby. I said, doesn't that feel like a superpower? She's like, yeah, that feels like a superpower. Like that's
That's
right, baby. You tell people you're unstoppable. Like, not that you're immortal, but in a sense, I guess even
we
that
are
word,
though.
even
Yo,
that word, like,
that's the whole
ooh.
thing. Like when you really start
The
especially
body is not immortal. It's the soul
the soul
that
is immortal. The stronger your soul, the easier the use of each body. It's like when you have a stronger soul, that means that you can kind of contain some of the memories of your past lives, which means that the next lesson you learn in your net, like, because like the whole idea is that we're here learning lessons with one essential goal in mind: how to keep us all alive, how to make life better. That's essentially it. How to keep us all alive, how to make life better, how to keep existence better for all of us. Like that's the core value that we all share. And as time progresses, I feel we're getting closer and closer and closer to that goal. But at the same time, we're also getting closer and closer to our own understanding of our own souls. And the
yeah,
more we can analyze ourselves, the more we can surrender to the truth that is our being, the more we realize that the physical form is adjustable and theoretically it wouldn't it like the more you look at it, those tales and those stories, it's not so far off. Like theoretically, if we had full
Oh,
control or containment of our soul and our understanding, we could resurrect in like 3 days. It's just like
let
you just
me
went into a different body. Boom.
put it out there that I'm actually a huge fan of the Bible and the Quran and all of those stories because there is so much beauty and truth within these scriptures.
Hmm.
You can actually see if you're in tuned enough, you can see through the bullshit and actually
Yeah.
reap the benefits of the things that are there. So like I'm not trying to discourage anybody from actually, going about and reading the Bible. And I had a deep conversation with my mom like yesterday when I asked her, I said, "Ma, like, because I remember her bringing us to church, but then there was a period of time where she just stopped bringing us.
Yeah.
And then it was only like grandma, or it was like auntie. Sometimes I went with Auntie Joan, but
Mm.
most of the time it was just, mom said not."
Yeah.
And I asked her, so what was the reason? She said, like I could just feel it in my body, something wasn't
Something
right.
was wrong.
Something
Yeah.
was off. And she said the part that bothered me the most was that they really wanted to take the children to go and do what they wanted to do and fill the children's mind up with what they wanted to
Yeah.
without me even really being present. No, none of the grown-ups could be in that room. All the grown-ups have
And
to
then the
be
kids.
upstairs and all the children go down in another place, right? I
Mm-hmm.
get that, but at the same time, you don't know what's being said. Like, yo, I know we're here. We were talking about surrender, and
Yeah,
I'm
no,
gonna
no, that's the
we'll
same.
get
That's the
around to
same
this,
thing.
but
Because like that's the idea is like that we're talking about in this regard is like it's the negative aspects of surrendering, which would surrender is I don't know the actual dictionary term, but it's like giving in. It's essentially giving in
yeah, it's
to a
cease to
situation, which can
resist.
be good or bad depending on what you are actually surrendering to, right? You're surrendering to the realization of a situation and it allows you to go forward. That's the good use of surrender. But if you're in a bad situation and you surrender, so it means that you just see that this situation's like this
That's not
and
surrender. That's submission.
submission. Submission. Yes, exactly. 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 That's I guess it's like the line where they're kind of it's kind of like they're it can be either or, but it's the same thing, right? Yeah, yeah.
It is a very fine,
Fine
thin,
line. It's a very
silver
fine.
line that
Mm.
slides in between what's too much and what's like balance, right?
Yes.
So, okay, like for example, to like, I feel like there is a huge implementation of fear. Obviously, that I feel like is probably one of the biggest things that's wrong with some of those writings and the way that they go about, teaching
Or the
people
teaching of the
fear.
writing
They
man.
teach them to be God fearing.
Yes. How many times have I heard people say I'm a God? I've heard people say I am a God-fearing man. What are you afraid of God? What are you afraid of God for?
My children are
Why would
never
you
going
be
to church again. I know they love
why
her
would
now,
you
now,
be
but
afraid of God? Why would you be afraid?
the
Why
scripture said, so be afraid of yourself.
yeah, that's the craziest part. It's like what have they done to people in that aspect that it's like you are afraid of the greatest entity essentially because the central entity of why everything exists is essentially God. That's it. Like it doesn't have to be like how you hear in the scriptures or like people talking to an ancient deity or this or that or da 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 da. It's like the fact that we are able to exist is essentially that is just God. That like that's the binding force of all things. That realm that we exist in this physical realm, also in the spiritual realm, but it's a little bit harder to understand because we're in a physical body. But it's like with the physical body, we have that knowledge of like, okay, I can feel things around me. I can touch stuff, the walls, this like I can see you with my eyes, I can hear your voice. And it's like the fact that we can do that is essentially we're doing this through the
Evidence
godlike
of God.
entity. We're doing it through like it's like God is essentially um an endless um internet network, an endless internet connection, and we're all connected through our senses, essentially. But that's why it's tricky
This so
with
makes
people who
sense.
are born without like. 'Cause I don't think babies even make it if they don't have any of their senses, like if they're missing, like I think you need like at least touch. You can get around from touch if you have because I know there's some people who actually have a brain disorder where they don't have like the sense of touch, but like they have their other senses. So it's like you need some of them, but it's like you're missing them all. You automatically just you're stillborn at like you can't live because you or that body itself is like not connect or the, that body itself. I think that it might also be that that body also didn't contain a soul. It's like that's one thing I will say about Earth is like I feel that there's a lot of us. We have a lot of us. Like we have more people than our planetary soul level is or should be. So it's like we have like a planetary soul level of like maybe one, two, but we have like the amount of people we have, we should have it. It should be at like a soul level of like four or five. And like
So what are you saying? We don't have enough people?
we have too many people at level ones and not enough like
Oh, in terms
fours
of
and
like levels of consciousness.
yes, yes.
Okay, okay,
So
okay, okay.
and then like that's where we end up with like the complicated. So I think like with what we're doing right now, what a lot of people and what I've started to notice with like people being able to pay more attention to the spirit world, their own spiritual existence. It's allowing the growth and knowledge to anyone who's at a level one to help them with their path. Because the whole idea is like new souls are created because everything's just all about energy. New souls are created, they go into a body, but it's a new soul, so it has to now learn lessons. Sometimes they're smart souls; they can quickly figure things out. But generally, it's like you gotta go up that ladder of existence. You know, solve something, then you grow. Solve something, then you grow. Like so, where I feel we are at now, I think we're getting a lot more like level three, four, and five like soul level people, and like with the connectivity that we have in our world, it's allowing the messages to kind of be spread through, so we can kind of like help the development of those minds, which will help overall the development of our world. But I think one of the main things and like where we have to start reaching a point where we don't rely on large entities or like large entity groups to survive. We need to like or I think the idea is that we're relatively close to it, but it's like we need a few safeguards. We need a few more safeguards to make sure that when we actually start making people's lives be more self-sustainable, the pushback isn't going to be as wild as it could be. I think that's like the biggest issue that we have right now. It's like
When you say
if
safeguards, you mean like um cooperative communities and like people actually working together.
I would say it's not so much about the people, it's about the entities around. The entities will start blocking you and banning you if you because like the idea is that once you start taking money out of their pockets, the game changes. Even though they have like relatively infinite money, the game still changes. Which is the part to me that I find confusing because it's like they already have so much, but they're wildly wanting more. I actually have one of my I've been hypothesizing this. They're afraid. They're terrified. They don't want to go back to the spirit world. They don't want to answer for their. They don't want to answer for. They don't want to
The help
answer
that
for
they've
what's going
gotten.
on. Yeah, and like honestly, I think that we as the people are also a key to helping that. because we also have to learn to control our own selves and our own beings. Because I think the way to really be able to truly make things be okay is we have to be able to forgive them in a way that we can allow them to accept and to surrender to that truth, to that main truth. But they're
I'm
afraid.
sure there
They're
has to
afraid of
be.
like the drawback. They're afraid of that energy. Like imagine if imagine. Think about it this way. Imagine we lined up, say there's like 10,000 people who are like creating I guess the current illusion of existence, right? We found them all, rounded them up, and then we had the entire rest of the planet there. There's no, our planet's so full of ones that keeping that level of anger contained would be crazy. There
It's
would be no like
chaos. It's
it'd
just
be chaos.
there's just
First
absolute
thing,
chaos.
the first thing that most people don't want to do is be like destroy that. Da, 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 da. So like I think that's where we are at right now. Is like we're trying to increase the soul level of everyone to try and get people to surrender to themselves to understand the reality that they are their own truth and I think one of the biggest things about that too is like allowing people to understand or getting people to understand that there is a much greater beyond, kind of change the script on things about to get people to stop being so afraid of death, their own death, and
Hmm.
it's like
Well,
accept it.
I feel like you have to openly teach people about it, but I feel like that's one of the fears that has been used as a scapegoat
Hmm.
to get at the masses, right? Scare them
Yeah,
about. That's why they use it with the healthcare system. They use it with all types of different things. They use it with even with what
fear
I'm studying
mongering.
right now with motherhood and stuff. They do that to even new moms too, where they scare them into. There's a whole like
Oh yeah, I've heard.
economics sociological way of them communicating these fears into
Yeah.
the subconscious minds of the people, right?
Yeah,
And
it's like, are you
it's
sure you want to do this? And like they do weird little
yeah, like
pushes. Yeah, 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 yeah.
to mind fuck you and make you second guess yourself and
Yep.
because you can't see it. They're playing with the fact, so it's like how like someone makes shitty future promises.
Yeah.
Well, they'll say, "Yeah, I promise you the future. You're gonna be a billionaire. You're gonna have this. You're gonna have that. I'm gonna make sure these people got you." But these are just things that they know. They're just building up something in your mind, but it
Yes.
doesn't necessarily mean that that's actually gonna play out in the future.
Yes.
So I guess even surrender can be associated to the fact that I'm sorry,
Yes,
I
you
had a
can.
brain
The idea,
fart.
right? Well, I see, I see where you're at with that because it's like, okay, well, because see, you can utilize that on both ends. So it's like, say someone were to say something like that to you, right? Because like, if someone was absolutely true to themselves and that's what they were saying of their own being, and then that's like the path that they were making. Now, you you can only surrender to your own truth. Knowing that person, that person's being is that person's truth. Now,
Mm-hmm.
it shouldn't change your being out of the scope too much, depending on what this person is trying to do. So it's like you shouldn't be able to, or you shouldn't give more or less than just the face value of what that person's trying to give you. Because if they're saying that that's what they're going to do, it's like, okay, cool. When that is the world that you create, then that is the world that you created. So I can accept people's truths if that's their truth. And then it's just now observing. It's just what are you doing to make that world that is your world become your truth? Because at the end of the
Yeah,
day, we can
because
only
sometimes
really
the
we can
opinion
only
or
become our own truth.
society's opinion. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you.
No, no, no. We can only become our own truth. So it's like as long as you're not, yeah, as long as you're not putting their values and their existence over your values. As long as
Yeah, so
obviously, as long
someone's
as
reality, someone's, what do they say? Someone's belief of you doesn't have to become your reality, so to say.
oh, 100%,
Yeah.
100%. Yeah, it's a it's a it's a beautiful existent lesson because it's like these are the streams that we have to go through in order to become great. Because like
Mm,
that's the whole realm of like what are the whole process of constant reincarnation, constant coming back, constant changing is literally for the same concept to perpetuate growth. Because like the system of the God system that we exist within literally has one want: spread love and
what,
growth. Essentially, it like that's it's energy that wants to keep
perfect energy?
expanding. That's why we keep there's more galaxies, there's more stars, there's new planets. Yes, some planets die, some end up in black holes, some go supernova, this and that. But then you also have this galaxy spawned over here. There's another one over here. There's another one over here. We're coming up with new things. We keep having more humans. There's more souls every time. So it's like there's always an existent stream, a growing stream of life energy and existence, and it's tapping into that knowledge that that is what surrendering to that knowledge that that is what the source has enabled us to do, taking in the fact that the source's purpose while creating us was for us to create and to keep creating, use the most intrinsic beauty that we have the capacity for is our imaginations, our knowledge, our freedom to create, our freedom to do anything, like either good, even good or bad. Like obviously bad is not a great thing, but at the same time, without bad, we wouldn't be creative. You need the there has to be that whole that's the whole point of why we go through those realms.
Mm,
Again, as I was saying, what was that book? The Journey of Souls. I recommend this book
yeah.
to everybody and anybody. It's probably one of the most amazing books I have ever read in my life. Um, Essentially, it's a hypnotherapist who it's pretty much just like a like articling of like 30 of his patients as he brought them into a soul state. So he's having them talk to their spiritual mentors in the spirit world to explain like things that have happened in their past. He can actually have like he actually had them at a state because since it's the realm of the spirits, they already know what's going on. They can already feel what we feel, see what we see, and like we have our own mentors as we're trying to grow. That's why we're going through these loops. But it's not just like willy nilly
Exactly.
random. Like there's actually an order to it. The chaos is that we exist, but not why. The why is the reason. The logic is the why. We're supposed to be, but the chaos is how. How we happen to be, how we make our choices, what choices we make, what elements of existence happen to appear in front of us. Like, so those are the lessons that we have to learn. And it even speaks like so in some of those cases that like were like old some of the older souls or the older like older leveled souls, they were they made choices themselves of the bodies that they were going to be reborn in or carnate into. I think that was the word they were using. There was carnate, or he didn't use reincarnate like as the word, but there was a word. I think it was carnations. It's like my most recent carnation. That was the term that they would use, and it's like so it's like they would perceive some of the options that they had in front of them that it would be based off of like because our souls are like our brain waves. They're individual. We have our own specified individualized energies. Like they all come from the same source energy, And eventually, like as we get stronger in our soul level, in our minds, in our ability to exist, we slowly start getting closer to the source, which we all start becoming like more and more like similar in that aspect, that like the value of existence we all start to know. And then at that point, we're just creating more life because we're like, we understand things so well, then you're like, we can all create. And that's why we're here, is we want to create more because it's so beautiful to do that. Well, we're where we are, we're learning how to get to that stage. And it's like when we choose our next carnations, we look at them and are like, okay, well, this is a lesson I can learn if I was born into this body. This is a lesson I can learn if I was born into this body. I could choose to be a man or a woman for my next incarnation. Because it's like, I need to learn a lesson as a female in the current world that exists in order for me to gain a level of humility, which will help my soul surrender to the truth of that which my soul is. Again, check that book out. It is probably one of the most amazing things I've ever read in my life. And it's really cool too. I find it very fascinating because like I've had a lot of these similar thoughts myself, and like how the whole process of like level of soul strength is very similar to like the, I guess that tier system that I had for like mental development, at least as like a species, as living beings. Because like as I was saying too, because like the general idea is that when we reach a certain level of understanding, both in our soul level and technologically, we will be able to make, we will be able to create things technologically so we can communicate with like the ancient ones, the elders, the old souls, the universe, the sun, like because everything runs off of a function of vibration patterns and fluctuations. It's all
Mm-hmm.
vibrations at different frequencies. And it's like learning how to perceive that and read that. When we start really paying more attention to that which is, as opposed to rejecting it out of fear. Not so much to say that we do that, but it's that's the perpetuation of like our current, the illusion of existence right now, is that that's the perpetuation. And it's like once we reach that point, because like that level, that's that point where we start reaching like, as we were saying in the last podcast, like heightened technology, where it's like we there's no such thing as time, and in terms of moving through space we can travel to planets like that. There's no such thing as like work like hunger. That's gone completely. Like almost any of the issues that we have on our planet would be completely gone. And then all it would change the entire structure of our planet, where everything now would become, it would become a philosophical world, like the whole world at that point now. Because like we'd still probably still have fighting, we'd probably still have this and that, but it would be in a different way. It would be more like the old ancient like martial arts style. So it's like people would go and they would like
Like
do
duke it out
meditation, they'd
kind of
study.
thing.
Yeah,
You have a
exactly.
problem,
Yeah. So
gotta fight.
you'd go and train against somebody, because like even with me, I I enjoy fighting. I enjoy fighting, and like I enjoy fighting from a respect to the art and the martial arts realm. And if I were to fight somebody like if I was trained at a level to be a master, and I came across another master and there was just like that energy of like we we've we've been waiting for our two souls to meet so we can have this fight. I would fight that person, and we would both probably fight, and one of us would probably be die, and neither of us would feel bad. We would appreciated that fight because we were like, that was so beautiful. That was an amazing and majestic. As it would have just been a dance. To us, it would have been like a dance. Our souls are dancing using these bodies, and we're just like, this is
Yeah.
amazing. This is amazing. And then just like the battle's over, one of us happens to die. May not happen, may not happen, but like if one of us were, then it would just be a more beautiful moment, because it's like I would feel that soul, and we'd be looking back and be like, that was a good fight. That was great, man. It's like, I'll see you back
I
whenever
know.
you're back, man. It's
You know what
like,
came to mind when you said that? That scene in, I think it was it Kill Bill 3? No, I think it was the first one. There's a scene in Kill Bill at the end when the two girls knew that this is the end all be all battle. Like,
oh yeah,
this
Lucy
was
Liu,
the
yeah, when
battle
they're,
we've
yeah,
been waiting for. One of us is dying today. And then when they both realized they were like, like this is the final moment, they're just like, yo, let's dance. Let's
Yes,
dance like we're gonna die. Like let's dance.
yes, and it was beautiful. It was
It's
beautiful
one of
because
my
like
favorite movies.
that was yes, that was the fight with Uma Thurman and Lucy Liu. That was the yeah, that was the first one. That was the
Mhm.
first one because that was them fighting in the snow and Lucy Liu had the two swords. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Or I guess they both had two swords, but like yes, it was like that, and like it was an enjoyed fight. It was an enjoyed battle. It was a battle amongst masters, and like they were able to respect it for what it was. Like you'd be able to respect about it. Like whenever you have moments like those, you won't see somebody like dying or like in that moment to turn back and be like, "Oh, screw you!" Da, 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 da. Like the energy would be humble, very humble, and
Like
like almost artistic and
Lucy Liu
beautiful. Like that's
knew
why that
she
scene was
had
so
to
good.
back down. Lucy Liu knew that she had to like. She knew that she was a part of the journey of revenge that she was seeking, and she was the last one. Well, actually, no, because technically the husband.
Yeah, she did a 5 point. She the
She did
same
it
thing, but
behind
like
him because he was the one that set her up.
yeah, like the only one I would say that wasn't a humble fight or a humble death would be that one lady who had the eye patch. That
Yeah,
lady,
I
she
was just
took her
gonna
eye out and
say.
left her. She took her eye out, but like at the same time, like I guess that was also because like there was a thing in that too, where like Uma Thurman when she had done that, that one lady, she was just like, please, she's like, kill me, like, what are you doing? Like she took her eye out and she just left her. Like that was a little bit more brutal. That was like even another thing too, where it's like no, your soul still has to stay here and learn this lesson. You need to humble yourself while being blind in this place. Granted, there was a snake in there. I think she probably got bit by the snake, but it's like you have to, like, that's your moment of like, you got to humble yourself. That's your last little bit of time with your soul and that existence and that body. Now it's like you get your moment to reflect before you go back to really, because the idea is like when we die, our souls enter into like soul space, and then we have clusters or groups of other souls that are very similar to our developmental stage, so we remain within our cluster, and then we have teachers, or we have a main teacher for our cluster group, and then the idea is that the stronger level we get, we start becoming now new sets of teachers for like the next set, as it's essentially the same hierarchical system, like not fully the same, but it's a wisdom hierarchy that I
Yeah.
it's something that we essentially already exist within, because it's like at one point the respect your elders thing was a very serious term to use. Now it's a little bit all over the place because it's like I've heard that before from some people, and I'm like, you though, I think I'm older than you, bro. Like I've had a couple of those ones. It's like
It's like,
eh,
nah, you better give respect to receive it. How about that?
yeah, exactly. It's like there's a balance we're supposed to
Show me
have
I
here
should
on this
respect
thing.
you.
But yes, like
The way you talk like you ain't got no sense, but I'm supposed to respect you. Huh.
that that's a part of that thing, because it's like that's them still in their growth stages themselves, and it's like I think one of the things, and that's also part of like I guess because Earth started off very harsh. Earth has just been a harsh place for us for a while. Like it's been
Yeah,
like a
but the earth itself hasn't been. It's the people. Let's
no, the Earth itself has been, because like think about the struggle to survive in the early stages of things. Like people warped it because like the idea is that the struggle to survive is the whole process of existence, and then using ingenuity to make things better. But it's like the struggle to survive here was also I I can understand how and why it's gotten as bad as it has.
Do you think that sometimes the way that people, especially like in countries and stuff, larger groups of people, when they're feeling or thinking a certain way, do you think that that affects the earth and the earth reacts to that?
Mm,
Because we are people are
as it like
different. I
well
have a huge
yes, so we it's a rippling effect that we do to each other. The idea is that like the earth started with this initial ripple to ripple us to get ingenuitive, We took that ripple, we rippled, we did some ingenuity, and then the earth rippled back, and then we rippled back. But now our ripple is this like it's where well now it's not. I would say like this is kind of like you'd have to scroll this back like say 5,000 6,000 years ago is when we had our last really big, or I'd say 10,000 years ago when we had our last big ripple when like we rippled and then the Earth rippled back. I guess either the Earth rippled back or space or whatever, and then we did not recover well from that one.
We
This
didn't
most
recall
recent
it well.
one, huh?
We didn't recall what?
We didn't recover well from that
Oh, we
one,
didn't recover well. Okay.
and because we didn't recover well, our ripple effect got like it wasn't the same ripple ingenuity. It became negatively driven, and so like there's been a lot of great ingenuitive knowledge, but there's also been a lot of like human based self destruction.
Hmm. Yeah, there's definitely been a lot of human-based self-destruction. I
Hmm.
don't know. I think it's because sometimes people forget about, you know, I feel like when the spirituality of Earth is separated from humankind, they become lost.
Hmm.
Like there's so much healing energy from the Earth. There's so much grounding energy from the Earth. Even the sun, I think people mistook some of those things too, like worshiping the sun and worshiping the earth. Like, I don't think it's so much more of a matter of worship. I think it's more so a matter of what's the word I'm looking for?
Not respect, is it?
Libation, paying libation too. Like understanding that its divine, abundant quality is magnificent and greater than you, and gives and provides to you.
Hmm.
So, like for example, like yo, we straight be taking so much stuff from the earth and not putting nothing back. Like we always
Yeah,
taking, we taking and taking and taking and taking, but we not putting nothing back. Like
but see
that's
that's a
that's
trick.
that's
But that's a trick because we're not really doing that as a whole. As a whole, as a species on a whole level, we're not really doing that. There's a very small few that do it, and then they perpetuate that using us. So it's not so much to say that realistically, yeah, if if people stopped buying things from certain places, then things wouldn't be there. But at the same time, there's also we have to do we're at the state we're in, we have to do soul work on ourselves right now so that when we actually start putting that work in to start changing things, that we're able to succeed. Like I kind of
maintained.
feel I don't exactly kind of know, but like I kind of feel like that's kind of what's happening right now is like this whole war going on in Russia. It's like it's the stuff I'm seeing, it's crazy where it's just like none of the people blame the people. The people are kind of just annoyed at the governments. Both sets are kind of annoyed at both of their governments. So like at the end of it, you see the Russian soldiers are with the Ukrainian people, and they're stranded or they're just like surrendered, and like the people are like here, like here's some food, here's a sandwich, like we could kill you, but we're not gonna because like we also understand that you didn't have a choice. So it's like they they kind of surrendered themselves to the humbleness of the fact that it's like you are a person that got dealt the hand you got dealt, but
Mm-hmm.
you are still a compassionate being, and it's like them showing their compassion. You could see the other side's compassion is like growing, and you can start seeing like this is the time to see people be the most human in times of like things are dangerous and things are in like a darker state. When you see people being humble to the enemy, that's how you know there are changes. There are
That's
changes.
like the convoy, right? That's the
Yeah.
same thing. Convoy was the same thing. As much as they even tried to to trash them and make them look like they were there doing the most. Meanwhile, and
Oh, they tried so
that's
hard,
where
but
I
that
kind
was
of am on the
crazy.
fence with this Ukraine thing, because I've been hearing a lot of different things. I've been
Oh
hearing
no, I know,
these bombs have been
yo,
going off, but I've also been hearing that they've been pulling these bomb videos from other situations that have happened, and they're utilizing it to make it seem like the worst is happening down there, but not so much. I'm not saying that that's the
oh,
case.
you
This is
mean
a
mainstream? The
sensitive topic,
mainstream media is trying to
especially
fear
where I'm at.
monger it. Of course, they're
But
fear mongering.
yeah, but I feel like
Of
they're
course,
definitely trying to. But they did the same thing.
it's
So
the same.
the thing
It's the
is
same
that,
story,
listen, the narrative switched so quickly. The
like
narrative
that.
switched from the government apologizing to everybody for them fucking up and saying they're taking away all the mandates to right away,
Instantaneous. Oh, like
instantaneously. We're gonna move to another narrative because we need to distract the fuck out of you people because we don't
yo,
want you attacking us.
if you trace it back, it's been nuts. It's like it went like this. It went like this. It went like this. It went like this. It went Trump, um, COVID-19, um,
Black Lives Matter.
Black Lives Matter, COVID protesters. Yo, it like instantaneous, instantaneous. Like it wasn't, and none of it made sense. All of it was like ridiculous. So everyone still ended up having to find. Like we're at this point now where it's crazy, where it's like I don't think really people like we're hearing information about these things, but I think we're all just looking at this is what these crazy guys are saying now. I think we're all starting to look at it like that's what these guys are saying now. We're just looking at it like
But
this
you're
is we're
still
looking at it. We're looking at
still
them
complying with
now
the
from
narrative.
yeah, we're looking at them like they're careless with their ability to report the news essentially. Their carelessness and their like because like I think that whole system of like things being like that, that is a perpetuation of souls that have lost their path. And you know what happens when you lose your path? Your creativity is non-existent. You can't
It
create.
doesn't.
You can't create. You can't create. So you gotta perpetuate the same nonsense. But guess what? Creativity is the whole byproduct of our existence, the whole byproduct of our soul. They don't want to surrender themselves to the truth, to the absolute truth that we have to be true to ourselves in order to create a better life, to create a better path, to create a better existence, create a better us. You got to surrender yourself to that. And it's like because they're lost track of themselves, they can't. It's the same stuff. And like the easiest way to know, like that's the way you got to look at it now. It's like utilize the power that we have in the media. It's like look around. If you see something is doing the same thing or they're repeating the same thing constantly, so it's like they'll take the same story that they've already told and then they maybe change a one two thing. That's how you know. So now we're at a point where like that's the thing. Like I think this is kind of our way of also, as I was saying, like us being able to. This is how we're starting to notice that that group, that that 10,000, they're starting to make themselves more aware by not having any ability to create. If since they control all this, they're not able to create, which means that we start noticing them more. Because it's like
But only
we all
some of us are noticing them, and I think there's a huge part of me that feels like that was a part of the necessary shift that we just went through, right? We just
yeah,
went through a massive shift of like shit, fam. Like the downloads were intense. Like, yo, the universe is straight up telling us, yo, save, build, produce, make, craft, and literally dropping all of the like ideas. Like, yo, this is a collective idea, but this one's for you. This one's for you.
mm,
Like, attack them as much as you can, kind of thing. And unfortunately, for those who are still stuck in that narrative, they've I don't know, they're gonna have to wait for the next opening, I guess. They're gonna have to wait for the next portal of opening, I guess, because they've completely missed this flight. This flight's gone. because we're
Well,
already here on the plane. They're stuck there. They're still there because that narrative is still being controlled a certain way to distract
yes.
them
Oh,
from
I see,
actually.
I see what you mean. Like the people who are caught up by that narrative. But I think the thing
Yes,
is, like, the next. See, so I think the whole purpose of that last spirit, the spiritual, this last great spiritual awakening was to awaken more people to be able to help the younger, because that's the way I look at it, is the ones who aren't able to really facilitate or analyze those things are young souls. They're younger souls. They're much younger souls. So they haven't had that many existences, or they they're only just at one. There's like a couple of, or they've had a couple that they really haven't learned anything. So it's like they still don't even understand the spirit world. They haven't lived enough to really start figuring things out for themselves. So it's like we are now at a state that spiritual awakening was like to allow us more knowledge of ourselves to help us help them learn more about themselves.
that's exactly what I got. That's exactly what I got. That's exactly what I got.
Yeah, because like take that in, take that in.
And everybody has their own little designated way to collectively contribute to that growth.
That's
Because
the whole thing.
ultimately, no offense to them, but the ones that are a little bit older than us, who are still stuck in some ways that don't
Yeah,
quite align with this awakening, are the ones that we have to take our eyes off of. Don't even entertain the mediocre, low vibrational levels of conversation with these individuals, unfortunately, too. Like, there's literally no time for that.
yeah,
Like, I don't
like
have time to sit and for an hour to talk to somebody to explain to them what personal awareness is, and what it means to be a spiritual individual. Like, you don't even understand what spirit means and what the concept of spirituality is. It's like, why are
I think
we're on
I,
like
I think there's a way to do it though. I
85.
think there's a way to do it though, where it's like you the way I feel like I see it in my mind because I've been trying to like hypothesize that too. It's like how does one who understands themselves help somebody who doesn't, right? I think the idea is you gotta find what they think they know and have them break their own reality to understand that, because like the idea is that you have them break their own reality, but you have to help put them back together. Because when they break their reality, they're gonna break their reality and they're gonna be like, "Oh, nothing makes sense." Whoa, and then it's gonna get
Well,
crazy.
that's the thing too. You gotta be careful. You can't be dropping those types of gems on any and anybody, because some people need teaspoons, some people need grains. Because their level of, I want to say, spiritual download for those types of things could be really heavy, and unfortunately for some people, it can throw them into a state of limbo.
Mm,
If you give them too much, if you tell them too much, right? So
mm.
I mean, yeah, you're right. There's definitely going to be levels on how you can communicate certain things to people as time goes by, because ultimately, like I said, you can't think from a sense of, oh, they're too old, they're old dog, they can't learn new shit. That's not compassion. That's not
Okay, boomer.
compassionate.
What is it? Okay, boomer.
Like, it's gotta be love, and just know that, yeah, especially when people reach out, because I don't know about
I
you,
think
but
that's
I
the
feel
main
like,
key really, is if you do it with a true expression of love. I think that's probably the hardest part that a lot of people have in those moments of like trying to explain things to people in that state. It's like without humbling yourself, things will seem or will be portrayed as condescending.
mm,
And then when you reach that state, you can't teach anyone anything. No one's gonna learn. No one's gonna want to learn because they can feel that like what you're saying is somewhat disingenuous, even though it may be the right thing. It's how the energy you're giving off as you're giving it isn't genuine. It's not genuine to yourself, which will it'll like, even though say someone may not fully be developed, that may have been the thing that they could have used to have learned, but because of how it was explained, that put that person back by like 5, 6 steps.
Mm, sorry.
That's good.
Sorry. I feel like we could talk about this for hours.
Yes. And
How do
thanks
you
to
say we wrap
everybody.
it up for the night?
Yeah. Yeah. We've
Yeah,
done
I feel like
well, the
we've.
idea would be we want to end this on because like this is what we've done is we've created a realm of deep thinking. But the
Mhm.
idea to I want to state this then. That same value that we understand and know to be intrinsic to us, which is the purpose of existence is to keep growing and spreading and perpetuating growth. Growth, which is love. Outside of us, the universe will want to do that. So outside of our beings, outside of our lifetimes, it will happen. All the see, you have to now look at it like the hardships that we're going through on our planet are necessary in order for us to grow. That just seems to happen to be how it is. It didn't have to be like this, but this is what it is. And
It
because
is what
this
it
is
is.
what it
Yeah.
is, it will the idea is that out of this, we're gonna have the step that we climb up is going to be one of the most immense, most beautiful, sublime, amazing things. Imagine, literally just imagine feeling and hearing the song of the spirit world at all times. That's where we're heading to. That beauty. We have it. If you focus in when you meditate, you can feel that energy. We're almost there. That's the
I
number
can
one
feel
thing.
it just tapping. I was just like tapped into my third eye for a second.
But it's great. It's a beautiful day. It's a beautiful song. Like to me, it's like it's a cross between like angelic hymns and like electronic music, like EDM, like a soft trance. So like I can hear like if you slow it down, it's just like angelic hymns, like and then like if it's just like just because the energy of it is like it's so fast, so that fast energy is like high paced, so it makes me also feel like like being at like an EDM festival, but it's just like everywhere is the EDM festival. This EDM festival of existence and life because it's just everywhere. You can feel the
That would
vibration
be
of
the
all the energy
life.
of spirits.
So you think we're almost there?
We're almost there. We are almost there. We're so close. We're super duper
I
close.
can feel it too.
Oh yeah.
I can
I
feel it
think we
too.
all do. We all do. These are the things.
I keep getting like visualizations of like I said, I keep getting these premonitions of the future and like what it looks like for my family, what it looks like for my friends, and what it looks like for me. And I'm
Crazy.
just like, yo,
It's
big
crazy.
things are coming, my nigga.
Yeah.
Yo.
Crazy. It's gonna be wonderful. It's gonna be amazing. It's gonna be nothing we have ever seen us currently in this lifetime has ever seen before. Maybe well, other than the fact that like our souls, but I'm talking from a physical standpoint. No physical being is going to have seen this. At least no physical being that like has existed in our lifetime. Maybe some like one or two like super genius who are like, I built a spaceship and left. All right.
Oh, sorry.
No, that's okay. But yes. Um, yeah, I'm guessing you heard most of that.
Yes, I did. Sorry.
No, that's okay. But yes, everybody, it was a wonderful pleasure. Feel free to like, send a comment, share. We appreciate all and any input that you guys have. Thank you for tuning in. Always a good vibe, always a good time. As I always say, put a
Yes,
positive
always a good
spin on the
vibe.
negative spiral and enjoy.
Have a good night, everyone. Thank you for tuning in.
Thanks for tuning in. Take care, take care.
Ciao.